Hello everybody, it's Kara from Wild Book Garden, and today I'm here to do kind of a book haul from January through March. The reason I say kind of is because I'm not going to talk about every single book I got in those 3 months. I have gotten behind on book hauls again, and I do enjoy doing them. I think they're a good way to keep myself accountable. I think they're a fun way to talk about what has gotten me interested in certain books. Yeah, like I enjoy doing book hauls, but at this point I don't want to have to catch up with 3 months. So what I decided to do is I used a random number generator and I picked a certain number of books from each month. And I'm also thinking that maybe by not being able to talk about all of the books that I got in a month, that might encourage me to read the other ones quicker so that I can, actually talk to you guys about them. I don't know. We'll see how this goes. Let me know if you guys like this style at all. So yeah, you won't be hearing about all of them, but I mean, I should be reading all of these. I do plan to read all of these, so you will hear about all the books eventually. I just thought this might be a fun and kind of low stress way to catch up a little bit. So I was going to pick 5 books randomly from each month, but I thought that wasn't quite enough, so I ended up doing 7 from each month. And it's really interesting. This will give you a very interesting picture of things that I've been interested in or buying lately. Because obviously it's not completely representative because it's not every single book, but just the way that the random numbers worked out. For example, in January, I have been reading a lot more nonfiction lately, and these last 3 months, I've bought a lot more nonfiction than usual. And in the first month for January, of the 7 books that I randomly picked, 5 of them are nonfiction. I also wanted to mention the charity I donated to for December because I forgot to actually put that in my video. Clearly, I am very out of practice at doing book hauls because I completely forgot about that part, which is a big thing that I like to do in book hauls now. I took the idea from my friend Kelly from Cozy Reader Kelly, who I will link down below. And yeah, so for every book that I buy, I donate at least $1 to a particular charity. I pick a different one every month. And for December, it was to get Lily Mead's mother a sewing machine, a really nice sewing machine for Christmas. And we were able to do that, which was very exciting. I will put their mask shop, and they also do bookmarks now, down below in case you want to continue supporting them. And then for January, I donated to an LA mutual aid network. LA County was really badly hit with COVID, and especially at that time they were doing really badly, and it was a mutual aid network about getting people the care and assistance that they needed. For February, I donated to Arise Adelante. This was during the Texas weather crisis, and it was specifically to help very vulnerable populations, such as immigrants and people who just in general do not have access to a lot of really important resources, and shelter and food and heat and all of that. So I will link that down below, as well as a housing fund. And then for March, my donation was related to the Flint water crisis, which is still ongoing. They're raising money for a more permanent solution because even though it's not on the news anymore, they still don't have clean water. So I will link all of those charities down below. Please feel free to check them out. And I'm going to talk about the books. So as I said, there will be 7 from each month. For January, and by the way, I did already pick the random numbers because I didn't want to be running around and trying to collect all the books. I wanted to have them ready to go, so you won't actually get to see me pick the numbers. But these are the ones that I randomly generated. And the first one for January is Rose by Holly Webb. It feels weird holding it on that side. There we go. So I really enjoyed Holly Webb's Magical Venice series, and this is another series of hers that I'm really excited to try. And I don't know much about this except that I think it's in a vaguely English historical fantasy setting. Yeah, again, don't know much about it, but I have really enjoyed her characters and her stories. Next, I have one of the many nonfiction books you're going to be hearing about, and that is Lucrezia Borgia by Sarah Bradford. This is the nonfiction pick for the first quarter of the Read the Renaissance book club. I will link Julia and Helen's live show down below. I really enjoyed hearing them discuss this book and the historical fiction book. Sadly, I did not enjoy this one. I have already read this book, and I will be unhauling it. Yeah, it started out well and just went really downhill for me. If you want more details about why I didn't like this, I will have a wrap-up going up at some point. I don't know when. It has been filmed, but I need to edit and caption and everything. But yeah, so sadly, I got this only a few months ago, and I'm already getting rid of it, but oh well. Sometimes that happens, And then speaking of Read the Renaissance, I also have The Woodvilles, The Wars of the Roses and England's Most Infamous Family by Susan Higginbotham. This is a nonfiction pick for the second quarter. I think the historical figure we're focusing on is Elizabeth Woodville. I'm not sure. I don't know a lot about the War of the Roses, really, or the Wars of the Roses. That's not an area of English history I'm super familiar with, so I'm interested to see how this goes. I also like this cover. And yeah, I hope it is more successful than the Borges books that I read. Although one great thing about this book club is even if it's not a book that I really love, it kind of is helping me figure out other areas of historical fiction or historical nonfiction that I would be interested in, so that's cool. Next, I have Radical Reinvention by Kaya Oakes. This is a like memoir type nonfiction. Kaya Oakes is a progressive Catholic, and I'm always excited to read more from them. And I have read some of her work online that I have really enjoyed. I also follow her on Twitter, and she's I just like really admire her perspective and her writings. So yeah, I'm excited to read her like memoir type book. I don't know why I said type, I'm pretty sure it's a memoir. Yet another nonfiction, I have Reading While Black, African American Biblical Interpretation as an Exercise in Hope by Islamophobia. And this one I have heard, it's like, I don't think this is a super widely known book, but of the people I have heard talk about it, or from the people I've heard talk about it, I've heard very good things. And I think this also has to do with liberation theology, which I am really interested in. And yeah, again, I haven't heard a lot of people talk about this, but what I have heard has been very positive. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to reading this perspective and just learning more. I told you I had a lot of nonfiction. So the last nonfiction book in this section is Twisted, The Tangled History of Black Hair Culture by Emma Dabiri. This is another one I have actually already read. I read it for the Irish Readathon. Emma Dabiri is Irish-Nigerian, and spoilers for whenever that wrap-up goes up, but I thought this was brilliant. A lot of people have said really great things about this, and I wholeheartedly agree. It talks a lot about the culture of black hair, obviously, and the stereotypes, and also really refutes this idea that like it's just hair, you know, that like basically people are making it a bigger deal than it should be, or like don't read so much into it. She really goes into the history and like how the treatment of black hair is a result of racism and colonization, and I just thought it was really brilliant. And the last January book I'm going to talk about is a book of poetry, and that is The Lost Arabs by Omar Sakur, and this is a recommendation from my friend Olivia Savannah at Olivia's Catastrophe, and this was, I think, one of her favorite books of 2020, and just the things that she said about this poetry made me think I would really like it as well. I looked up, I think, a couple poems, and I really enjoyed them. This is very short, and yeah, I'm really excited to get to this as well. I feel like I am going through these books a lot quicker, so hopefully that doesn't make for a more boring haul. I don't know. Okay, and then moving into some February books that I got. The first one is Taste of Darkness by Murray V. Snyder. This is the third book in the, I had to look at the title there. What is this series called? Is it just the Healer series? I don't know. The first book is Touch of Power, which I actually got as a present from my friend Huck, and I really enjoyed that book, and so I ended up buying the other two books in the trilogy, and I'm really looking forward to continuing the series. Although obviously I will not be picking up the third book. I will be picking up the second one, but this is just what got pulled with the number generator. And then I also have I Can Make This Promise by Christine Day. I have already read this book. I read it a couple years ago, and I finally bought a copy because I originally read it from the library. I love this. This is an absolutely brilliant middle grade contemporary novel. Our main character is a girl named Edie, and she and her mother are both Native American. I think her father, I don't remember if her father is or not, but her mother was adopted by a white family, and so Edie and her mother have, like, they've never really known a lot about their Native American heritage. And then one day Edie is going through some boxes in the attic, and she finds a photograph of a woman who looks exactly like her. And this kind of sets her off to try to figure out what's going on, if her parents have been keeping things from her, why they've been keeping things from her, and I just think this is such a brilliant book. Christine Day is a member of the Upper Skagit tribe. This book is partially based on her experiences, although I don't remember if we are told the name of Edie's tribe or nation. But yeah, this is just an absolutely brilliant book. I'm really excited to own a copy now. Next, I have a classic novel, and that is Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. This is the beautiful Virago Modern Classics edition. And this is, I think this is another recommendation from Olivia Savannah. She talked about this book in, I don't know if it was one of her favorites videos or a different recent video, but this is a classic I've been meaning to get around to for a while. And then when I saw, I think it was Mara at Books Like Whoa showed these editions, I just thought this was absolutely gorgeous. So I got a few of these editions, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting to this at some point. I don't remember exactly what this one is about. I just know it's a classic, and it sounded like something I would want to read. I think also that people have said it can be a little hard to get into because of the dialect written out phonetically, so I will keep that in mind. Yeah, just really looking forward to this. Next, I have Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi, and let me check the translator for this. Translated from the Japanese by Jeffrey Trusolo. And this is, I feel like this book is like starting to get really popular right now, or I think because it was just published in the US. I did get the UK editions though because I wanted the paperbacks. I actually got this book and the second book, or like the companion book or whatever. I don't usually buy multiple books in a series I haven't started. Like, I don't often do that. But in this case, I just feel like I'm really gonna vibe with this story and with the themes. And I was ordering this from the UK anyway, so I was like, might as well like not make a separate order, you know, like assuming that I enjoy this book and wanted to get the second one later. So this is like a time travel kind of story, but the point is not really the time travel. The point is like the relationships and the emotions, which really appeals to me. And so basically it's set in, I think it's like 4 vignettes, and it's set in this coffee shop, and in this coffee shop you can actually go back in time to talk to somebody, but there are all these rules, and I think, so one of the most important rules is that you have to leave before your coffee gets cold, so hence the title. Yeah, so the rules are: customers must sit in a particular seat, they cannot leave the cafe, and finally they must return to the present before the coffee gets cold. So this is about 4 different people who all do this time travel, and for different reasons. And yeah, I don't know, like the people I have heard read this have had kind of middling things to say about it, but I just feel like the themes and the like concept of this book are really going to work for me, so we will see how that goes, but I'm excited to have that. The next book I picked is one of my anticipated releases, so you probably have already heard me talk about this, but that is Ancestor Approved: Intertribal Stories for Kids, edited by Cynthia Leitich Smith, and this is by a variety of different Indigenous authors who wrote stories and poems, and it's all set at the same powwow. And I actually read a little bit of this right when I got it, and I really loved what I read so far already, so I'm really excited to return to this one. And yeah, there's like some authors that I know, like Christine Day, Rebecca Roanhorse, Cynthia Leitich Smith, Tracy Sorrell, and then there's some that I don't know, so I am really excited to get to this. Really beautiful cover. I just love the idea of this book, and like I said, I really like what I've read already. It was just the very beginning, but I'm just already really enjoying this book. Next, I have another nonfiction. I told you that I bought more nonfiction than usual in these last few months, and the numbers are reflecting that. But I have Love Tenderly: Sacred Stories of Lesbian and Queer Religious, edited by Grace Serdoval, IHM, forward by Janine Gramick, SL. Yeah, I think this is pretty much just what it sounds like in the title. I think I saw this book talked about, or I don't remember if it was like one of the authors was talking on Twitter, but I think I came across this book on Twitter and it just sounded really interesting and really important. So I did get it, and I'm really looking forward to getting to this. I think this is also a relatively new release. Oh, it says copyright 2021. I thought it was last year. So yeah, this is very new. And I am just really excited to read these perspectives. And then the last February book that I picked, this is like kind of embarrassing because now I have to explain myself a little bit, but that is the Artemis Fowl Barnes & Noble's Collector's Edition. I'm sorry, Exclusive Collector's Edition by Owen Colfer. Yes, I already own several copies of this book, of this series, and I'm not ashamed of it. Artemis Fowl is one of my favorite series. It's one of my formative series, I feel like. It's always been a really important book series to me, and it's one of the few books that I will buy multiple copies of, obviously. And I think that this one is the collector's edition because it has like extra content in the back. I'm pretty sure that most of the extra content I already have in the form of another book, the Artemis Fowl Files. But on the off chance that I don't have all of it, I wanted to get this. And I really love that it's my like original gold cover of the first book, which I don't really read those copies anymore because they're falling apart. So I am really excited that I get to have this cover in good condition again, although I am bummed that it's a hardcover instead of a paperback. But yeah, like this is a collector's piece. I probably will read this edition at some point. Okay, and then finishing off with 7 books from March. The first one I have to talk about is A Turn of Light by Julie E. Cherneda, I believe. And I heard about this book from Annalisa Ely, and the things she said about it, just like, I think this is going to be cozy fantasy, and I'm really excited about that. It's quite a chunky book, and yeah, just the things that Annalisa has said about it, I really think I'm going to enjoy this. And as always, I will link all of the people I talk about down below. Next, I have another nonfiction pick, and that is Brother Astronomer: Adventures of a Vatican Scientist by Brother Guy Consolmagno. So this is about like the Vatican Observatory, which is something I find really just interesting and I want to read more about. And also, one of my favorite books that I read last year was Braiding Sweetgrass by Dr. Robin Wall Kimmerer. And one of the main things that that book talks about is the blend of science and religion and how those things can coexist. So that's another reason I'm really excited to get to this. And yeah, I just think it's going to be really interesting. I also picked up A Study in Scarlet Women by Sherry Thomas. This is the first book in the Lady Sherlock series. I feel like there's a lot of like other booktuber recommendations in this haul, so that's exciting. But yeah, so this was sort of an impulse buy because my friend Julia from Shakespeare and Such was reading, I think, the second book in the series, and she just had really positive things to say about this series. And also, Sherry Thomas wrote one of my favorite books I read last year, which is The Magnolia Sword, which is a very different premise, but I loved that book. and I'm really curious to see how she does with historical fiction. And I have not had great luck with Sherlock Holmes retellings so far, but this one does appeal to me a lot. I don't know, like honestly one of the things I'm most concerned about is like if there's gonna be any not like other girls feelings, because I feel like when there are female characters in a historical time period where like they're doing like science or any kind of like pursuit that is not traditionally associated with women, I feel like a lot of times that can turn into like women who do traditionally feminine things are like not as smart or like not as strong of women. So I'm really hoping that doesn't happen. Just based on what I read in her other book, I would think it wouldn't, because I feel like that book did a really great job of avoiding that. So I'm hopeful. But yeah, I'm really excited about this and we'll see how it goes. This is another book that you heard me talk about in my anticipated releases video. This is Down Comes the Night by Alison Saft. All I really know about it is this girl is trapped in this weird like creepy mansion with this guy and their enemies, and they have to like work together and find their way out or something like that. I don't know. I'm excited about the atmosphere. I'm excited about the hate to love romance. I just feel like I'm going to enjoy this, so I hope I do. Next, I have another classic novel, and that is Pomfret Towers by Angela Thirkell. So this is in the Barsetshire series, which is very interesting because apparently Angela Thirkell wrote her own series inspired by the series of the same name, which was written much earlier by Anthony Trollope. So it takes place in the same fictional area. And I don't know, I just think that's like a really interesting idea. I don't know if I'm going to start with her books or with his. I think they're different enough that I probably could enjoy it either way. So in this book, there's a really fancy house party, and this girl named Alice Barton and her brother Guy are guests. So the back of the book describes some of these other guests, and it looks like there's going to be like a lot of like relationship entanglements and things like that. I'm excited to try some of Angela Thirkell's books. Next, I have Thorn by Intisar Kanani, and this book I actually read a different version of several years ago when this was indie published, and now Intisar Kanani has gotten picked up by a traditional publisher, which is exciting. So she has republished this, and I think she's rewritten it too, maybe, because I remember the book being pretty short and this one looks quite a bit bigger. And the reason that I picked this up now is my friend Hannah from Lit Hermione. She was part of the blog tour for the second book. I will link that review down below. It is completely spoiler free, and just the things she was saying about that book and about Thorn just like have me really excited to revisit this book and to move on to the second one, which is I think another book I talked about in my anticipated releases video. So yeah, this is a Goose Girl retelling, and I'm just like really excited to return to this and to see how much has changed about this book. I mean, we'll see how much I remember from the first time I read it, but I'm really excited to return to this author. And then finally, the last book I'm going to talk about from March, and the last book I'm going to talk about today, is Ascension by Victor Dixon, and this is, I think, also a translated book. Yes, so the translation is by Danielle Hahn, and this is another recommendation from Olivia Savannah, and she's just like said really good things about this series, and it sounds like a lot of fun and really interesting. So this is a sci-fi series, and I think it's basically like a high-stakes dating show in space, and those are not necessarily things that always appeal to me, but for some reason this does. And just the way that Olivia Savannah talked about it makes me think it could be really fun, and I am just really looking forward to trying the first book, and we'll see how I get on with the series. Yeah, I just like, this seems like it'll be really fun, and it also sounds like a series where even though it is set in space, the majority of the enjoyment of the story is like the characters and their relationships and like maybe some of the plot and everything, rather than like the actual like space setting or getting like very technical with that, which I think would be good for what I like in sci-fi. So yeah, excited to try this and see how I do with it. And those are all of the books I'm going to be talking about. So again, these are not all of the books that I like received or bought January through March, but this is like a sampling. Again, it's not necessarily a representative sampling because obviously you might get a different picture of what I read based on just what I happened to like randomly choose. But let me know how you guys feel about this format of book haul. I know it's not quite the same, but just as a way to catch up a little bit, let me know what you think of that, if that would be something that you would enjoy or like be open to me maybe doing again in the future sometimes. And what should I call this? Because I thought about calling it Book Haul Roulette, except that it's not really Book Haul Roulette, because like that makes it sound like I picked the books I got randomly, and I didn't. I just picked the books I talked about randomly. So anyway, any thoughts on this format would be appreciated. Please comment down below and let me know what you think of this kind of format, and also a book that you are really excited to read. It doesn't have to be one that you bought. It could be from the library or a book you've had a while, anything like that. I just want to know something you're excited about. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you soon with another video, and I hope you love the next book you read. Bye!